And we are good. How are you? It's been a while since we last talked.
It's been a whole 24 hours.
A little bit more, but yeah. Here we are in my backyard today. I'm here with my good friend David. Do you want to introduce yourself and just let everybody know who you are and what you do?
I do. Yeah, hi. My name is David Toller. I am a visual artist as well as a yoga instructor and aspiring psychotherapist and former/recovering marketing guy.
You just got done with the Kensington Art Fair. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because we had tried recording, we did record an interview when we were at the fair on Sunday. But actually, my camera didn't have enough space to record the video, so it's good that we're doing it now.
That's hilarious.
Because now I can record proper video on these ones and have a proper setup. Yeah. But yeah, tell me about your experience with the Kensington Art Fair.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I guess the important thing to remember is that it used to be part of Pedestrian Sundays, which for people who don't live in Toronto or are familiar with the area, Kensington Market's a really special place where all sorts of different cultures have been mingling for a very long time, and kind of immigrant communities, not just the mainstream. And it's led to a really vibrant culture that exists there and a sense of community. So the last Sunday of every month, pre-pandemic, pedestrians would take over officially the entire community, and it would be a really beautiful space for people just to walk around and feel like they're in a great big market, like the name suggests. And part of the activities that happen there is an art fair, which I've been taking part in for the past 2 years. And yeah, it's been great. It's been great to meet all sorts of different people. You never know who comes by, and I think that's actually where I met you a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I remember. I was just walking around and trying to talk to the different artists, and you were the only one that would give me the time of day to talk to them. And yeah, no, I love your work. I'll be posting it up on the video as we go along. But how long have you been doing what you're doing now? I guess, how long have you been interested in art and that sort of stuff, and how long have you been developing your current style?
Yeah, well, I think like a lot of creative people, I've been drawing and doing my thing since as early as I can remember. It hasn't been quite as refined into the works that you're more familiar with, I'd say, since maybe 2011, 12, sometime around then. That's just when I decided to take art making more seriously and dedicate a lot more time and actually complete stuff and not just have it hidden under my bed or stuffed behind furniture and that kind of thing, and actually get it on walls, and then from there get other people to look at it as well.
It's a hell of a process, for anything, I would say.
Yeah.
You pick up on stuff, and then you pick up different projects, and then it just kind of fades into the background while you do other stuff. It's
totally, that's the thing. It's not like when you're trying to cook or make a meal or do something that's creative and has an immediate kind of timeline and fulfillment to it. People who make visual art or music, or anyone I'm sure who you're going to interview will probably talk in a similar kind of way, where it's you get frustrated with it and you walk away and then you come back. It's like a bad relationship, actually, now that I verbalize it.
But you stick with it, and then you see it through, and then it's something beautiful that comes out at the end. So the process is worth it, even though it might take a long time to do.
It is worth it. It when you get that moment of when you're finished with something and you're satisfied and it's there and you can sit back and enjoy it, I think that's really fulfilling for me.
Nice. Yeah. You're a well-traveled person from what I've seen on your Instagram and stuff like that. What kind of places have you been to, and how has it affected your art in any way?
Yeah. Well, I didn't quite get the travel bug until I left home, which sounds kind of obvious, but I was one of those kids who got to fly away to wherever on vacation with their families. We just kind of stuck in Canada and drove around Ontario, or the most distance I probably traveled to was British Columbia before I started really using my passport. Yeah, so I've spent half a year in Mexico and in India. I've traveled through Turkey, through Israel, through Portugal, through Colombia. Yeah, those are the ones that stick out the most in my mind, where I've spent the most time in. I'm so sorry, could you repeat your question?
How has has that had any effect in like your creative process, or like what has stood out to you from like the art that you've seen
Definitely.
there?
Definitely. So I guess I should preface that part of how I lived my life was that I ran yoga retreats on the island where I lived for the summers. It was an outdoor studio, so I couldn't really do anything in the winter, and rather than pick up a MIC job or something like that, I just took what I earned and made it last a little longer, just because of the way I've been blessed to be born in Canada. My Canadian dollar is worth a lot more in Colombia or India than it is here. But I ended up living in more humble communities, more ruralized places, or with people who are, not super high rollers. So definitely that's impacted my work a lot, and being able to be crafty about how to get things done. Seeing how, for example, big murals are painted in India, or how graphics can be done, graphics printing can be done in Oaxaca. And then as well behind that, I think the drive to create for me gets much more fired up when I go to these places and I see these people who are not just making useless pieces of art, but actually doing something political with it and trying to motivate people and trying to change the world, and not just at the most make a living out of it.
Yeah, I've noticed that like a lot of your work has like different dimensions to it. There's like a political side to it, like a more like spiritualistic side to it. It depends on like what work you're looking at, of course, but like all of your work seems to like have a sort of message to it, and it arrives to those messages in like a lot of different ways from what I've seen. Can you talk about a little bit, because like I guess you can also tie it into like yoga and that sort of stuff. Like it has, of course, like a spiritual like pivot to it. How much of a bearing does that have in like your work?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's huge. I think I'm someone who's really dissatisfied with the way things are going, with this invasion of materialism. And if you've been aware for a little while, even the past 5-10 years, let alone 20, 30, 40, we've seen just this deprivation from people's lives about anything other than just materialism and material well-being. And I think that this comes from a poverty of ideas and spirituality and a rich inner life. So I'm pretty friendly, but I'm mostly an introvert. So I think that I've had a bit of a leg up or an advantage or a head start in going through that self-reflective process and looking internally. And when you do that, you can't help but then see the world in a different way as well. So I think the political consciousness that I have earned or sharpened or whatever you want to call it is definitely connected. I think not only just to the immediate just and material aspect of it that you could see everywhere and anywhere in the world, but also that spiritual dimension that you mentioned has also played a big part in helping me understand the way things are and understand the way how things could be better.
Your experiences will mediate like your world experience and how you like make sense of things. So like you've had like a certain experience, and like that's of course going to influence your work in the ways that it is. How do you feel about the general like art scene here in the city?
Yeah.
How would you describe it, and like what do you think of it?
I have a lot of opinions.
Share them all, whatever you want.
I think I'm not gonna name any names, but I think there's a few patterns that I've seen happening. One is, of course, commercialism, which I get. Like, Toronto's one of the most expensive cities in the world to live in, and it's only getting pricier every day. So people have to be able to make a living, and to do that, if you're an artist, you have to make things that sell. So there's a big chunk of artists out there who just make things that don't have that that soulfulness, but that look really nice on a wall and that people will buy.
And it sells.
It sells. I mean, maybe I'm just being really harsh, and someone really looks at it and it invokes incredible experiences in them. To me, not so much. And then as well, there's another bunch of, or maybe like a behavior, I should say, that is kind of like a tendency or like this delicacy and oversensitivity towards your work, which from what I've seen, it kind of feels like it's just masking self-doubt and uncertainty. So it's just like it's extraordinarily highbrow concept pieces. And
Yeah,
like,
everything has like a theory behind it and like a manifesto tied to it in some way.
And then the technical execution of it is nothing spectacular. And then, yeah, so that's another big thing. And then there's a lot of beautiful people out there, some of whom I've met through the market, that are really trying to use their art, not just their visual art, whatever media they have, to communicate something that's like deep and personal, and if not for their own benefit of processing it, but to help other people and lift everyone out altogether as well. So those are the artists that jump out to me.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, it's difficult to like put a blanket criticism over all of it, because like Toronto's so diverse with like how many artists there are and different styles and like different backgrounds and stuff, but like what ends up being shown or what like takes main stage is often like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but like that, I'm not like a very deep insider, so I don't know exactly all the mechanisms of how everything goes down, but all I see is what is going up, right? So these big public artworks, for example, that don't necessarily mean anything, and they don't communicate anything very important, I think. And to me, that is just another part of the invasion of corporate culture into life, into everything.
Where do you draw inspiration from for your work?
There's a lot of different places that I draw inspiration from. I think first of all, I mean, the ideas that I connect with and decide to illustrate, they come from a lot of different places. Spiritual teachings and reflections, like we were talking about. Actual news stories, for example, like the situation that's happening in the world. And just a deep inner longing to try and make something better than it is now. For the materials, I used to be a screen printer. That was like where I was trained on, so my style is very much dedicated to that. It still draws from that tradition, and the illustrations that I've made can be transferred to silk like with 99% accuracy. I just won't probably never have the time or the money to be able to go back into the studio, but it's still prepared for it one day, maybe. And then the actual style, I was trained originally in comics, like comic illustration, when I was a little kid. That was like the first class that I took, and that's what stuck with me. And so this is the style that I draw to the most.
Yeah, you've told me that you have like a big interest in like comic books and that sort of stuff. Can you talk about like which ones you, I guess, because you've been reading them for a long time, and it's like since you were a kid, how has like your taste in comic book changed over the years?
Yeah, it's definitely matured a little bit. Not too much, but a little bit. I grew up with the big guys, DC, Marvel, who are even bigger than ever right at this particular moment. So they always will hold a special place in my heart. But as well, who I've been reading and following a lot of has been Mike Allred. He's fantastic. He had a series, he's had many series, and everything I've read by him I just fall in love with immediately. And then, I mean, the big hitters out there, Jim Steranko. There's another illustrator, Steel Savage, who is most likely passed by now, and he did illustrations for just different books that I had lying around the house that I really drew to. But he has that strong black-white style. the draftsmanship is very strong with him.
Interesting. And like I always like love to bring it up, Neil Gaiman and Sandman and that sort of. Which, did you see the trailer that for Netflix? There's a series coming out.
Oh man, I didn't. I'm equally parts excited and horrified about how it could be. Like whenever, because the comic is perfect. That is one of the best comics I've ever read. And I'm worried about how it will be treated by Netflix.
There's an audiobook version of it which I listened to along when I read like the actual comic book, and it's actually like really well done. But yeah, knowing the like track record of like comic books and that sort of stuff being turned into like media, but hopefully they'll make something good out of this one.
I hope so, but the challenge is that they're not making it to lose money, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, it has to make money at the end of the day, which sucks. Because you can't do the cool stuff that you would be able to do if you just had access to whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah, let alone the challenges of translating different media.
Yeah.
Like, that is almost superfluous to what the producers are going to do to it.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I guess just, like, the biggest thing about this, like, interview was, like, building a profile of you. And, I guess we can just, like, fuck around and just, like, talk random shit now.
I'm into it.
I've recently been, like, thinking about dreams a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it's weird to think that, like, we spend a third of our lives asleep.
Probably more if you're
Probably
me.
more, yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, or me. Yeah, that's true. But we don't really pay attention to like our dreams and that sort of stuff. Does that have any like
huge impact? I full-heartedly believe in the power of dreams to supplant reality, and I think that. Well, I mean, I can only speak for me, and I'm sure many other people have had these experiences. But dreams are where everything happens. This is where big problems get solved, where big ideas come from, where, like, look at the way that we use our language when we talk about, oh, I dreamed about this, or I'm dreaming to do this, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's about taking things that are not quite in existence yet and taking them here, or taking different things and seeing them differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're so important, and so many people don't even dream, or don't even remember their dreams, or realize that they can dream, and this is a huge part of our consciousness that just gets blocked out or ignored. It's a tragedy.
Do you ever try to make sense of your dreams, or do you just like
yeah.
let go and just like?
No, I depends what's going on, how busy I am, but I try and keep a dream diary. Because each of us has like a sophisticated dream language that we aren't really aware of. So if you go to www.dreams.com or something like that and type in like, oh, dog, what does that mean? It's only going to give you like just one big cultural kind of meaning for what a dog is for us in North America, but it's not going to talk about what is your personal experience with dogs and what is my personal experience with dogs, and why out of every animal and every possible symbol did a dog come into our mind at that exact moment. And it's to deliver a message. Dreams are like getting a really beautiful gift, and unless you sit down and do the work and try and understand what's happening, it just remains wrapped up in your closet.
That's interesting. That's an interesting way of putting it. I have some weird dreams.
Can we hear them?
Sometimes, like, I'll, like, dream that I'm just, like, walking around, like, a city. I don't know where I am, but, like, I'm just, like, constantly it's just walking. That's all it is. Sometimes when I have nightmares, and specifically I'll have nightmares of like somebody breaking into the house, and like because I gotta leave like a door open or something like that, and those are actually like pretty horrifying for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. I don't know if we have time for right now, but I also do dream interpretation workshops, so I could run you through the whole thing. Yeah,
I need to do more work to like remember them, because like sometimes they get muddled and then like I misremember them and that sort of stuff. So
if you set the intention before you go to bed, like I'm going to go to sleep, I'm going to dream, and I'm going to remember the dream. It helps when you wake up, and then if you write it down first thing as well.
I'll do that. Yeah,
those are free tips.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You want to get into psychology, right?
Yeah, psychotherapy.
Psychotherapy.
Yeah.
Why?
I feel called to it. I think it just makes sense. All the pieces kind of line up to it. It's how I feel like I can directly help people, and I have skills for it. I have the temperament for it. I have interest in it, and yeah, we'll see if any school will let me in and actually study with them, but it just makes the most sense. It's where everything lines up.
Interesting. Do you see like your work, like your art, being affected by that in any way, like now?
Kind of. Like, a lot of times I don't really understand why I want to make a specific piece. Something just comes to me, whether it's from like a news story like I was listening to, or a dream, or whatever, and I just have to create it. And then through the process of it, I'm discovering its meaning as well, because I might think it's only just about one particular thing, but then as I go through it and take it through the process, I understand so much more. And then you see it up on the wall, or put it away, and then look at it again, and then you're like, oh yeah, this was totally what I was processing with this, or this is a reaction to this other thing as well.
What happens to us after we die?
How about any bigger questions? What happens to us after we die? Well, either first your heart stops beating, or you stop breathing. Can't remember which one. And then you lift your arms up if you're in the process of dying, like as an old person or a terminally ill person. Just like when you're born, you raise your arms up.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know, it's wild. If you go to like the infant ward or whatever it's called in the hospital, like all the newborns are all like wiggling up.
Yeah.
And then when I was seeing my grandfather die, he kept raising his arms up, and one of the nurses told me that is
going.
That's
wow.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people do. Yeah, and then your body starts to decay, but what else happens after that? I mean, I believe that you have something in you, right? Like something that animates you. You can call it whatever you want. Everybody has different names for it, but the concept has existed with us for as far as we can understand humanity. And I believe that it doesn't get extinguished, and that it goes on. Maybe it comes back, maybe it doesn't. It's difficult to say, but one thing's for certain is that, I mean, I shouldn't say one thing is for certain. One thing according to me is for certain. One thing that I believe is that it's something that you can come into contact with in your life. In your life right now, in your waking life on Earth. And for me, it helps guide me towards honesty and compassion and lots of different positive virtues, and that's why I have a spiritual practice, to remind myself to keep in touch with that and not get angry at my mom, or act dishonestly, or eat animals.
Are you vegetarian?
I'm a struggling vegetarian. Soon to be struggling vegan, maybe.
That's a tough one.
It's hard. I think it's easy if you treat it like quitting like a habit, like smoking or something like that. It's easier. Like, I cut red meat out for years and have had no problems, and you just slowly whittle down all the other things.
Interesting. You like baking. We went from talking about death to we're now baking.
Death, baking, and other things.
Death, baking, and other things. What do you like to bake?
I like to eat croissants a lot. I don't like to bake them. They're incredibly painful to me.
Yeah.
So I've been doing lots of scones at my friend's cafe lately. Those are like a happy medium. But yeah, I do lots of cooking and as well as baking. I just kind of got sucked into working in kitchens from being at ashrams, and that's where they would drop me, and I'm apparently skilled at it and good at organizing people, so I end up always
That's awesome.
always in the kitchen.
What do you have planned for the future, with like near future and like a little bit more far down the road, with like your art and just like yourself in general?
Yeah, that's always very anxiety provoking. But I think so for the projects I'm working on, I've been working on a comic for the past little while that's helping me. It's been helping me process just some things that happened recently. I think I mentioned to you I was pretty critically ill and I had a car crash.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, but there was this coronavirus disease that sent all of our
I think I've heard something
tumbling.
about that somewhere.
You might have read about it.
There's an article somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere.
I don't know.
So that's been helping me process, and it's been like a piece of art that I don't feel pressured to like get done quickly on like the things that I display.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing larger format works, and hopefully collaborating with people. I don't know what quite yet, but like I've met a lot of different beautiful, wonderful people out there who also feel like they want to do something with their art that's meaningful, and not just for themselves but for society and humanity. So I don't know, I'm gonna get us all together in a bowl and
Hell yeah.
collaborate and see what happens.
It's the best. You never know what's gonna come out of it.
I'll invite you to video tape
Please,
all of it.
Photograph everything. Yeah.
You can document the insanity.
Do you have any parting words? Anything you want the audience to know in particular? Something you want to get out?
Oh gosh, in like 30 seconds. Or
No,
that.
not 30 seconds. Like however long you want. You can go on a whole tirade if you want.
I mean, as much as I'd love to do that, I think I think I just want people to remember that they matter and that they are significant, and if there's something that they don't like, they can change it. They can grow.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for doing this. Now this is a proper interview that we have gotten done, and it's our first one, and I cannot be happier that you were able to do this with us. You're an amazing person.
I'm so excited.
An amazing
Thank
artist, and I can't wait to see more from you in the future.
Thank you very much. That's so important to me. Thank you. Can I say hi to my mom?
Yeah, of course, say into the camera.
Mom.
And with that, we are done.